What if one good setup is all you need for the entire week to hit numbers that most traders can only dream of? That is exactly what we did on the NASDAQ for this entire week, plus 400 pips on just one single setup. Now let that sink in. Now for the last month, whilst a lot of traders were grinding multiple setups on a daily basis, I did not have that much time, but my strategy managed to deliver plus 1,800 pips for the very first week of June, plus 1,500 pips for the second week, plus 2,500 pips on the third week of June, and this last week of June we hit plus 1,200 pips. Now that brings me to a nice 7,000 US dollars for the entire month. Now this is only on my personal account. On the other people in the inner circle, it's going to depend on how you were trading. I normally take 4 trades per setup. We have people that will trade with 1 trade per setup. We have those that will use 10 lot sizes per setup. But the main thing is we were managing to capitalize at least 600, 400, 800 pips just with one constantly profitable setup that we ride on for the entire week. And of course, we did have 1 or 2 losses in between the way. You can check out the previous videos for full transparency, because that is when I was dropping all of those things as the month was progressing. And now the reason why I was not glued onto the charts for 24/7 is because I was busy crashing my final state exams. And that is right, I am not just a certified trader anymore. I am now a certified medical doctor. Yes sir. And on Instagram I did promise $50 to 3 of the best comments, and I'm just scrolling through all of them right now. Honestly, every single one of you blew me away, so I'm super thankful for that. But we're only going to have 3 random winners, which I did select right over here. Thank you all for the beautiful community and the wonderful messages that you all were sending me. Now let's stop wasting time and dive straight onto the chart. This week's NASDAQ trade was a really beautiful one, as you can see, but gold did really present a nice opportunity right before the market closed, and that was after NFP that we had on Thursday. Now this was a very simple setup, those beginner trades, that's what we're always looking for. So we had a nice trend line break here, followed by a potential retest that we are looking at, right? So that is a perfect zone to catch a buy and ride it up to the top. I did share this with the free signal group, and I also dropped it as a limit order in my inner circle. But we'll come back to check if that limit order is still valid, because I did drop it on Thursday. Remember that, right? We just want to still talk about the secret that I used to hold on to this NASDAQ trade, even though we were staring and sitting right at a resistance zone at the absolute highest of highs on the NASDAQ. Now this is a level where most traders are paralyzed by fear, and all those beginner traders that are looking at indicators will be reading, that indicator that the market has been overbought right now, and they start expecting, predicting a crash that is going to happen. And that's precisely why I knew that the market is going to continue to push up and even give us new highs on the NASDAQ. And guess what? That's exactly what the market did. It delivered, and it went straight to hit our final take profit. And you know that I had my inner circle taking full profits at this exact moment. Now the lesson and the takeaway you want to get from this particular video is you don't need 500 trades per week to be a profitable trader. One good setup that is executed with good conviction and something that you can ride onto, add to your trades, is all you need to capitalize on a weekly basis. Right now, before we dive into the weekly analysis, if you're new, find the channel for the first time, welcome. We trade the NASDAQ over here. If you're returning, welcome back here to know what's up. Don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. And I do have absolutely amazing news for our $2 million funded capital, on the prop firms, right? So as you can see right now, I am absolutely thrilled to tell you guys that I am officially an elite funded trader on Funded Next. This is the certificate that I just got. I just passed, their challenges, and I'm looking forward to trading this. And with more time on my hands now, we can continue with our challenge. We're diving in with full force into that challenge of getting $2 million in funded capital, right? But for now, let's go straight onto the charts. Let's look at the weekly analysis. And of course, we're going to start on the NASDAQ because that's our favorite chart, right? So just by looking at the NASDAQ, we are obviously set up for a really incredible week. As you can see, I will start by deleting what we have right over here. And this setup is so simple. We had NASDAQ giving us new highs after it broke out of these previous highs that it had, right? So these were our new highs before. NASDAQ went right through, smashed them, and went up to the top and formed even new highs right at this level. Look at what it did. It came back right now to retest these highs, and at that level it is currently giving us a little build up at this zone. We can see that the market is playing around at this area. A little consolidation at a support or a resistance level just tells us that the market would want to either break out of this level or continue to shoot up to the top. So at this zone, we want to be careful and first wait for the market to break out of either one of these sides, either to the top or to the bottom. So you don't want to just go into this level and say that the market is going to go back to the top. When you see a build up, you have to wait for the market to break out of that range and know the clear direction that it wants to use, because we could actually crash below this area, continue to drop down to the bottom, right? So on the NASDAQ, before I enter a buy at the retest of this level, I want to see a good breakout of this area. Then I know that the market is confirmed. The buyers want to continue to go up to the top, break out of this area, and give us even new highs, right? So for that reason, I'm not really using this area yet as a point of interest, right? So I want NASDAQ to come into the zone or play around or whatever, and then, break out of this area, then I can ride it up to the top. So we could mark it up like this. So what we'd expect to do is, if NASDAQ breaks out of this build up that it's having here, we know that we don't want to buy it until it drops into the next point of interest, which is going to be here, right? After it drops into the zone, then we want to ride it up to the top. Or if it doesn't come into this area, we have to first wait for a breakout of this zone, then we still ride NASDAQ up to the top. So that's what we're looking at on the lower time frames. That will be for a trade maybe on Monday immediately, but in the overall, if we're looking for the trade for the week, even though I would be updating the group as the week progresses. So if we do have the NASDAQ absolutely disrespecting those zones, or we just catch a few pips on the lower time frames and exit the market, then it eventually drops into this area, because you can clearly see that it hasn't been retested. This is more like a swing trade, because it would take days for the market to then drop to this area. If it eventually drops, then obviously we will now want to use our rough trend line that we have here, so that the market can rest on that trend line, and then we obviously want to ride it up to the top from that. So NASDAQ doesn't look complicated as usual. I think I'm always saying this now on most of the trades, because I like to catch one good movement, then I already ride it up to the top. So in the case that the market does eventually drop to this trend line, you can see the area that we'll be using. We do have a lot of rejections right at the zone. If it comes back like this, the market would obviously want to sweep out this area and come and buy off of this particular one. So we'll always be looking out for this area. And of course, I will be sending updates in the free Telegram channel. If you're not in it, the link is in the description below. You might want to join that group. But for just good trades, we're going to be looking at these areas for now. If it does break out, right? Let's go over to gold, because I already said that gold does have a limit. As you can see, this is our limit order on gold, even though I'm not sure with the exact values, but this is exactly what we're looking at. And for the very same reason that I did explain, this is on a 4-hour time frame, so it makes it even more valid. And also notice that gold is on an uptrend, right? We're currently on an uptrend of gold. We were looking at a certain trend line that I had for a couple of weeks. As you can see, if you're following me in the Telegram group with the updates, you actually know that we were looking forward to gold breaking out of this certain area, coming to this trend line, looking for a good setup at this particular zone, or even looking for a second entry around about this area. Then it rejected in this zone and it is pushed up to the top. Now you can see it's currently forming whatever it's forming, but on gold, we're on an uptrend. So that is something that I would expect that it continues with that trend that it already has, comes to break out of the highs. But when it will do that, we do not know when it's going to do that. But what we know is on the 4-hour time frame, we had the market forming a nice old trend line after it swept out all the liquidity, right? You can see that a lot of traders were actually buying at this area. So they bought at this area, then they got wiped out, it dropped into this zone. If you go to the previous video, the previous weekly analysis, I spoke about this, exactly this level. The market came into that zone supported by a trend line, giving us a nice rejection candle at this level. After this, you could have taken this trade, rolled it up to the top, but since you did not take the trade, I also did not take the trade. So it's so good. We still look for a new setup, which is what we're looking at right now. We're at a breakout of this trend line. The market kind of came back to retest it. I would want to see a good retest before I go into the trade, because it didn't really come back to retest the trend line. But this trade could absolutely move to the top from this level. Or what I want to see is it dropping back for the retest into this area, because this trend line could still be retested, right? And we have that X formation that we have right here, so that would increase the chances of it being a good trade, right? So I'd expect it to drop into this area first, right, as a point of interest, or wherever it wants to go. It shouldn't just go below this zone that we have here. So this is where our stop loss would be, somewhere below this area. And if it does drop into the zone, I wait for a good perfect confirmation that the market wants to continue to push up. Or if it does not, obviously I want to wait for it to break out of this area. Then if it breaks out of this area, you can already see that we already have a trend line that will be forming like this. Then we want to use that to respect it and ride up to the top and have a chance of probably breaking out of this zone, then breaking out of this zone. Then we continue to ride gold up to the top. But it doesn't look complicated. I've already given you guys a signal for the inner circle, because this is a limit order that we all have. If the market drops into that zone, it's going to trigger our limit order. And that's kind of a risky trade, because we wouldn't have seen the confirmation yet. But of course, that's why we have a stop loss there, and we have a lot of factors that are supporting that movement. That is why I have confidence in the trade, right? So that's about it on gold. My chart looks absolutely dirty, so I have to clear all of this and do the whole analysis again. But for now, you do understand. Let's look at US30. Ooh, I hadn't opened the chart on US30 in a long minute, and it looks absolutely good, because you can see we have this trend line. Now, we all know that US30, every single person that is in the free signal group should have been in this trade on US30 from this level right here. Should have got all of these pips right to the top, because this is exactly what we predicted. This is exactly what we were looking at. We said that we want US30 to do this. As soon as we saw NASDAQ breaking out of the highs, we said we want US30 to continue to do the same thing, especially if all of us were looking at it from this level, right? Every single one of you guys, you saw this playing out, and I really, really hope that you had the confidence to enter this trade and to hold it up. I did enter this trade in my prop firm account. This is what helped me to then pass my final challenge on Funded Next and get that certificate. This was the trade that I actually used to ride it up to the top. Now, obviously, we do expect US30 to still break out of these highs. And as we are looking at it right now, there is no particular setup that we could say, I want to enter at this level, because it has already moved, and at this zone we don't have an entry point, we also don't have an exit point, right? So let me just see if we can draw a nice old trend line. In this case, I wouldn't suggest using a trend line, or suggest using our horizontal lines, right? So our next point of interest, where the market formed a support area, is this level, right? You see we broke out of this area, it came back and started to push up to the top. So this would be our first support area, and obviously this was something that it broke out of right at this level, and it hasn't retested, right? So what you'd want to do is to mark those levels up like this. Probably want to mark this level up like this, and mark up this level also. So you already know your bias. You're looking for buying potential entries so that the market can go and break out of this area, right? So what you're going to do is you want to wait for the market to, first of all, reject at this level, right? I would now buy this area. Why? Because we have an area below it. So instead of buying this area, I would wait for the market to come break out of this area. Then I know it's going to break out of this area. So I would expect the market to do first either this, or to break out of the zone, then come into this point of interest. Then if it's in this point of interest, then yes, I want to buy it to ride it up to this area. And that's exactly what we are going to be looking at for this current week. We are looking forward to having an incredible week as usual, trading both the NASDAQ, US30, and obviously I do want to get good setups on gold for this current week, of course. Now, if you found this breakdown helpful and you did enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me with that? It's been Tino, and I'll see you in the next little video. Love you guys.